Multiple showcases, multiple games launching. Let's talk. What up, viewers? What up? What up? Calc Soups here, and today is Friday, May 26th, and that means it's time for a quick recap of the week in the video game news. Big thing this week was PlayStation did their basically E3 showcase, doing it a little bit early, but starting it off. And there was a lot to cover. There was like an hour, I think it was like 70-minute long presentation. So, and they just had game. So, not going to talk about all of them, but I am going to talk about the highlights, the ones that caught my eye. But let me know if you feel I forgot any that you want to talk about down below in the comments. The first one that caught my eye, not the first one that was showcased, was Helldivers 2. I was a huge fan of Helldivers 1. And I've been waiting for a Helldivers 2 for quite some time. They've been slowly kind of leading a trail of breadcrumbs with a lot of anticipation. So I am very excited for Helldivers 2. They showed off a little bit of gameplay. It's going to be third person. It's going to be a third person shooter, which I thought some of the appeal for Helldivers was the kind of isometric view and the brutally hard gameplay. So I am kind of interested in how engaging it'll be as a third-person shooter. Those are more dime a dozen, whereas the isometric was kind of unique to it. And I kind of like the art style of the original as opposed to this one being a little bit more grittier and realistic. But I am looking forward to seeing what they're doing with Helldivers 2. So as a fan of the first one, they have kind of the overtop satirical Starship Trooper vibe that I hope still shines through in the sequel, but looking forward to that. There was another game. I think if you took a shot for every game in the PlayStation Showcase that had the word tower or fantasy in it, I think you would die by the end. But one game that did catch my eye was called Towers of Agasha. It was a survival game, and I think you're in... I don't know if you're post-apocalyptic or if it was more fantasy. It was kind of like that weird middle ground of like people who still have stone sticks and stuff like that. But they had like a glider that people were traversing the world on, and there was a lot of alien creatures. So, but it was a survival game, and as you know, I'm a huge fan of kind of the survival genre and playing those with as many friends as I can get. So hopefully, it's a multiplayer survival game that I can get my hands on. Next, I want to talk about Alan Wake 2. The fact that we got to see a little bit more of who the protagonist will be for Alan Wake 2, which felt a little weird to have a new protagonist in a game like called Alan Wake. Like you would figure it would be involved in Alan Wake, but they kind of up the new the kind of new art style and bringing it into a modern age and showing the shadow monsters. I'm really interested to see what they do with Alan Wake. And I'm curious where the survival aspect comes in. I know that they were saying that Alan Wake 2 would be more a survival game and less of a kind of corridor shooter narrative game. So I am curious how that's going to like come into it all. But yeah, very much looking forward to Alan Wake 2. And we got a launch date, October 17th. And that's not the only launch date we got. We got Assassin's Creed Mirage also coming in October, coming October 12th. We got to see a little bit more about what a kind of Persian Assassin's Creed game will look like. I couldn't quite tell if there was like, if he had like sand powers or like, felt a little bit Shadow of War-y. And I know that's kind of an Ouroboros, eating its own tail, but it felt kind of Shadow of War-y where he was like shifting around. He looked like he was spiritually moving through with like sand powers. So I'm very curious what I kind of saw there, or if this would be kind of more by the books and realistic Assassin's Creed game. Near the end of the presentation, they talked about Project Q. No official name yet, but they have a streaming device that looks like basically a PlayStation controller, but with a 8-inch screen in the middle. And it'll be able to stream PlayStation games to a device. Which should be pretty interesting. I don't think, so I think they're just kind of making a device that you can link to your PlayStation and you'll be able to stream games to it. I'm very curious what the price point will be. I've seen people speculating anywhere from 600 to 200. So that runs the whole gambit. I don't think it'll be cheap. PlayStation tends to price their stuff up. So I bet it's going to be around $400. That'd probably be where I'd put my money. And I'm also curious what the accessibility or how easy it is to use. Do I have to have my PlayStation on? All that kind of stuff. How much of the infrastructure is there for potentially cloud gaming or anything like that? So, yeah, very curious to see what Sony does in this space and get an official name for Project Q and see what's going on there. And last but not least, they talked about Spider-Man 2, everyone's the next Insomniac game that includes Spider-Man, where he will be symbiote Spider-Man, so there'll be a lot of kind of Venom-esque powers as Spider-Man is moving around the city, so very curious to see what they do with that. They didn't have an official launch date, they just said fall, so that kind of causes a little bit of concern for me. If you don't have a date, fall is only 4 months away, so if you don't have a date for something that's supposed to be coming out this year, by the time you do your E3 presentation, I'm curious if it'll be this year. But and the fact they said fall and not like holiday means it's not like an October, November, December. It's going to be September. But if you don't have an official September release date now, that's a little concerning. Anyway, I'm getting into my own head a little bit, but yeah, I think a lot of people are very excited for the upcoming Spider-Man game. So looking forward to see what's going on there. Moving right along, not talking about the PlayStation Showcase. Moving on to the Diablo 4 live action trailer. As you know, I'm a huge fan of live action trailers, always coming right before launch. This one was by the director of Marvel Eternals, which wasn't everybody's favorite Marvel movie, but I could kind of see the influence here in the trailer. The trailer was less arcadey and more self-serious, live action, kind of seeing people cast fireballs and cast spells and, be taken down by this demonic forces, kind of really made the world feel lived in as small children are asking you to help them fight off demonic hordes. So very curious, very excited for Diablo 4. And I like the trailer, but I don't know that a lot of other people did. So at least from what I saw, but I like the self-serious tone and the grim darkness of it all. I like the deep. That's what I kind of like. Diablo 3 was very much arcadey, overpowered, and I'm kind of excited for a little bit more return to form, something dark and serious and grimdark and all that kind of stuff. So. Speaking of grimdark, we had a game launch this week. Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun, the Doom-inspired, Unreal Tournament-inspired, Quake-inspired Warhammer 40k game launched this week. It has a 73 Metacritic, so people are pretty excited to play that. I am very much looking forward to it. If I wasn't stuck in Hyrule, I would definitely be playing it probably on my Steam Deck. But yeah, I think I'm a huge fan, grew up on boomer shooters as they're called now, and very much excited for Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun, as Warhammer is one of my favorite universes to explore. So having a bolt gun and a chainsword and cutting through demons is something I am very much looking for. Unfortunately, another game that I was looking forward to did not receive good reviews this week. Lord of the Rings Gollum is at a 36 Metacritic, I think last time I checked. It is getting panned across the board. I think GameSpot gave it a 2. And just the game is not very polished. It doesn't look good. It's a 12-hour campaign, but it feels repetitive. The story doesn't have much there. And the mechanics and lots of bugs, all that stuff can kind of be fixed. So I'm probably not going to pick it up until, huge fan of Lord of the Rings. I'm not going to pick it up until it's been patched, fully and well. It's at a discount and the visuals have been improved because it looks really bad from the couple of videos I've seen of it. And I want the mechanics to work when I finally pick it up. But so if you have picked up Gollum, let me know what you think of it down below. But I think for the most part, a lot of people are saying it was undercooked before it got put out in the wild. So hopefully they take some time to patch it up. The developers, Daedalic, have officially stated that they apologized for the launch and that they'll be working really hard to improve it in the coming months. This is a game that had been delayed several times, and so maybe it needed to be delayed a little bit more. but got rushed out for some reason. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it looking nicer, the mechanics working, and hopefully I can get through it at a discount when it eventually goes on sale. So I'll be looking to pick that up sometime later this year. Speaking of later this year in October, the Total War franchise is going to ancient Egypt, and Total War Pharaoh was announced this week. Not part of any of these showcases, but just Total War announced their next one. So yeah, as someone who literally just finished a book about Cleopatra, I am very excited to get to ancient Egypt. I'm very curious where we'll be in ancient Egypt. There's quite a long time, so I'm wondering if there'll be a Cleopatra versus the Romans kind of thing, a Ptolemy Empire, any of that kind of stuff. So it just said October, so I'm pretty sure that they're kind of waiting for all the other October announcements to come out of E3 so they can find the date that works best for them that's far away from other ones. But yeah, I haven't played any Total Wars besides the Warhammer ones, but I think I would pick up an Egyptian one. So I'd be very curious when it is and when it actually releases later this year. Looking forward to that. Embracer announced in a financial call this week that they were on the verge of a $2 billion deal, and it fell through. It was based on a verbal agreement. Things were starting to ramp up. It was going to be a $2 billion deal, and it fell through. They won't name what the deal was for, but they named that they lost a bunch of money on it. So my speculation was very, very, take this with a massive grain of salt. I'm not an official source or anything like that. I don't have any inside knowledge. I was like, are they buying Ubisoft? So I just thought it was a funny thing. I looked at their market cap of like 3 billion euros. So, maybe it's around that price. But yeah, I was like, they're probably making a pretty big deal. So yeah, I'm curious what it was gonna actually be, and if they'll ever come clean about what the deal was actually gonna be. So curious how they lost $2 billion, having recently purchased Gearbox and the Lord of the Rings IP. They've got their hands in a lot of pies, and so I'm curious what else they needed and what's worth $2 billion. So let me know what your speculations are down in the comments or on my Discord. Speaking of Ubisoft, the Prince of Persia remake is getting remade. So I believe the Prince of Persia remake has been in development hell for several months now, probably several years now actually at this point. And I think they announced this week that they're officially scrapping the old remake. The studio behind them, they're no longer working with them, and they're making a new remake. So a Prince of Persia remake will be coming out, but all progress made over the last couple of years on the current iteration of the remake has been scrapped. So, it's going to be a few more years before we see the Prince of Persia remake, but hopefully we end up with a better product anyway. Moving right along, Doom is playable on a lot of different crazy places. I think I've seen it played on a toaster. I think I've seen it played on a pregnancy test. But there's some place it hasn't been, and that is on a McNugget. And that's when I transition over to Tetris is available on a McNugget as part of a deal in McDonald's in China. There is a plastic McNugget that you're able to play Tetris on. Looks like fun. I'm curious if I can. I bet there's probably some on eBay or something like that. But yeah, and as soon as Doom modders get their hands on it, obviously Doom will be playable on it. But yeah, there's a Tetris McNugget out there in China. So if anybody in China watches this, hey, and feel free to send me a Tetris McNugget. As a huge fan of McDonald's, I would love to get my hands on a McNugget that I can play Tetris on. Moving right along, not as big as the PlayStation showcase, but there was one on Warhammer. Warhammer's annual showcase about all of their video games is called Skulls. I think it's called Warhammer Skulls, and that's their showcase where they talk about all the games that are coming out or are already out, and new content coming to Warhammer video games across both fantasy and 40K. And that was another 45-minute showcase. I'll have a link down below if you want to check that out. Amongst many of the games that were announced and much of the content, the ones that caught my eye were Speed Freaks. a orc car combat video game that's coming out. I thought that one looked pretty cool. Anytime I hear car combat, all I think back to is 2015's Mad Max video game. But this one's a little bit more car combat, more arcadey, maybe Mario-esque, where you're going to be both racing and shooting at each other. So maybe more of a kart racer and less of a car combat. I don't know. I don't know where the lines are in the racing genre, but yeah, I think it could be fun driving around as an orc trying to blow up other people's trucks. So looking forward to that. They announced the Rogue Trader Collector's Edition, and as you know, one of the last bastions of physical media that I still purchase, I thought it looked pretty cool. The Collector's Edition I'd still buy Collector's Editions. I love all of Owlcat's games, so I'm very much looking forward to the Rogue Trader game, and I might purchase the Collector's Edition. It comes with a statue as well as some other, I think the soundtrack as well. So I'll be looking to probably pick that up sometime soon. There was, as I talked about last week or a couple weeks ago, Power Wash Simulator is a perfect place to just stuff IPs in, because you can do anything as long as you have the mechanics down. And Warhammer 40k, you can start power washing Warhammer, the Warhammer 40k universe. So that was announced during the Warhammer Skulls showcase. And last but not least, the big thing coming out of the Warhammer Skulls showcase was a Warhammer Fantasy RTS. Note, not the Total War franchise, but one based in the Age of Sigmar timeline. But it's an RTS called Realms of Ruin. And you'll be able to play through, as all the different, it seems like a couple different factions within the Age of Sigmar setting. And you'll be able to play Warhammer Fantasy, but on your computer. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that's all about. I haven't really engaged much with Age of Sigmar as a Warhammer fan, and do play a lot of the Total War Warhammer games, all the way up to 3, and still enjoy playing the heck out of that. But very curious what makes it both an RTS, if it'll be more of the grand strategy of like a Total War game, or if it will be like base building and RTS kind of stuff going on with it. So very curious how that's going to turn out, and looking forward to that whenever that comes. Last but not least, Alone in the Dark, the remake for Alone in the Dark, has a star-studded cast that was announced this week. Jodie Comer and David Harbour are both going to be the two protagonists of the upcoming Alone in the Dark remake. So there was like a 10-minute video talking about both their roles, and they talked about how they enjoyed the project. Although David Harbour's sound capture sounded a little bit phoned in, at least from what I heard, but this was only a pre-release trailer, so I'm curious if it gets better along the way. But it just sounded a little off, little muted. But it is a dark horror story, and I'm looking forward to seeing the upcoming Alone in the Dark game. So looking forward to that and the star-studded cast coming to it. But that's it. Hopefully I covered everything you wanted me to this week. But if you feel I forgot anything, leave a comment down below or talk to me on Discord. But as always, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy this content. If you do, please follow, like, and subscribe to me on YouTube and Twitch so you can see more great content like this. I'll have links down below in the description. Thanks again. I hope you have a super day. I hope you have a super weekend. And I hope you have a super day. Bye. Happy Memorial Day.